As the night falls and the darkness creeps in, the world around us changes. Shadows seem to grow longer and the silence becomes deafening. But what happens when the silence is broken by the sound of footsteps that don't belong to anyone you know? What happens when you hear a whisper in your ear, but there's no one there? Welcome to our world of horror, where the unknown is the only certainty and fear is the only emotion. Brace yourself, because the journey we're about to take is not for the faint of heart. The Exorcism of Anneliese Michel is a true horror story that took place in Germany in the mid-1970s. It is a story of intense religious beliefs, the dangers of exorcisms, and the tragic death of a young woman. Anneliese Michel was born in Bavaria, Germany in 1952. She grew up in a devoutly Catholic family and was raised with a deep love for her faith. At the age of 16, Michel began to suffer from seizures and was diagnosed with epilepsy. However, her condition soon began to worsen, and she began experiencing terrifying hallucinations and hearing voices. Her family and doctors believed that she was possessed by demons and turned to the Catholic Church for help. Two priests, Father Arnold Renz and Father Ernst Alt, were assigned to perform an exorcism on Michel. The exorcisms began in 1975 and continued for almost a year. During this time, Michel was restrained with straps and forced to fast, causing her to become severely malnourished and dehydrated. She also suffered from numerous broken bones due to the violence of the exorcisms. Despite her worsening condition, the priests continued the exorcisms, believing that they were fighting against the forces of evil. In one instance, Michel was forced to perform over 40 genuflections in a row, causing her knees to bleed. She also began to refuse food and water, believing that she was being punished for her sins. In July 1976, Michel died in her sleep from malnutrition and dehydration. Her parents and the priests involved in the exorcism were charged with negligent homicide, and a trial followed. During the trial, tapes were played that recorded the exorcisms, and the horrifying sounds of Michel's screams and the priest's prayers could be heard. The trial sparked a national debate about the use of exorcisms and the role of religion in mental health. The story of Anneliese Michel's exorcism has been the subject of numerous books, documentaries, and films, including the 2005 movie, The Exorcism of Emily Rose. Many people continue to believe that Michel was indeed possessed by demons, while others argue that her condition was a result of mental illness that was not properly treated. Today, the case of Anneliese Michel is seen as a cautionary tale about the dangers of religious extremism and the use of exorcisms as a means of treating mental illness. The tragedy of her death serves as a reminder that even in the pursuit of religious beliefs, the safety and well-being of individuals must always be the top priority. The Axeman of New Orleans is a true American horror story that terrorized the city of New Orleans in the early 20th century. The Axeman was a serial killer who targeted the citizens of New Orleans, using an axe to brutally murder his victims. The Axeman's first known attack occurred on May 22, 1918, when he broke into the home of Joseph and Catherine Maggio and hacked them to death with an axe. The couple was found by Joseph's brother, who lived in the same building. The brother reported hearing strange noises and went to investigate, only to find the gruesome scene. Over the next few months, the Axeman continued to strike, attacking victims in their homes while they slept. He seemed to target Italian-American families, and most of his victims were grocers or their family members. In many cases, the killer broke into the homes by chiseling a hole in the back door and entering while the family slept. Despite the best efforts of the police, the Axeman continued to elude capture. He would strike again and again, leaving behind a trail of blood and fear. He even wrote a letter to a local newspaper claiming responsibility for the murders and threatening to strike again on a specific date. The Axeman's final known attack occurred on October 27, 1919, when he attacked a couple named Mike Pepitone and his wife. Mike survived the attack, but his wife was killed. The attack was witnessed by their infant child, who was found crying in the bed next to her mother's body. The identity of the Axeman remains a mystery to this day, and the case has never been solved. Despite the fact that the killer wrote a letter to the newspaper claiming to be a demon from hell, some people believe that the Axeman was actually a person with a grudge against Italian Americans. The story of the Axeman of New Orleans has become a legend in American folklore, with many people fascinated by the killer's brutal methods and the fact that he was never caught. The story has inspired countless movies, books, and TV shows, cementing the Axeman's place in history as one of America's most notorious serial killers. Today, the Axeman's legacy lives on, with many people still fascinated by the mysteries surrounding his identity and the horrors he inflicted on the citizens of New Orleans. The story of the Axeman is a chilling reminder of the dangers that lurk in our midst, and the importance of remaining vigilant and aware of our surroundings at all times. The Villisca Axe Murders is a true American horror story that took place in the small town of Villisca, Iowa, in 1912. It is a story of a gruesome and senseless crime that shocked the nation and has remained unsolved to this day. On the evening of June 9, 1912, a family of 6 and 2 visiting children were brutally murdered in their sleep by an unknown intruder wielding an axe. The victims were Josiah and Sarah Moore, their 4 children Herman, Catherine, Boyd, and Paul, and 2 visiting children, Lena and Ina Stillinger. The murder scene was discovered the next morning by a neighbor who noticed that the Moore's house was unusually quiet. Upon entering the house, the neighbor discovered the bodies of all 8 victims, all of whom had been bludgeoned to death with an axe. Despite an extensive investigation, the killer was never caught, and the case remains unsolved to this day. Several suspects were identified, but none were ever convicted. Over the years, the case has been reopened and re-examined, but no new evidence has been discovered. The Villisca Axe Murders have become a part of American folklore, with many theories and rumors surrounding the case. Some people believe that the murders were committed by a transient worker, while others believe that it was a member of the Moore family who was responsible. Still, others believe that the murders were part of a larger conspiracy involving the Ku Klux Klan. The tragedy of the Villisca Axe Murders has had a lasting impact on the town of Villisca and the nation as a whole. The case has been the subject of numerous books, documentaries, and TV shows, including an episode of Ghost Adventures, which investigated the possibility of paranormal activity at the murder site. Today, the Villisca axe murders remain one of America's most enduring unsolved mysteries. The story is a chilling reminder of the dangers that can lurk in our communities and the importance of staying vigilant and aware of our surroundings. The victims of the Villisca axe murders will never be forgotten, and their tragic deaths serve as a reminder that justice must always be pursued, even in the face of seemingly insurmountable obstacles. The Black Dahlia murder is one of the most notorious unsolved cases in American history. On January 15, 1947, the body of a young woman was found in a vacant lot in Los Angeles. The woman was later identified as Elizabeth Short, a 22-year-old aspiring actress who had moved to Hollywood to pursue her dreams. The murder of Elizabeth Short was particularly gruesome. Her body had been cut in half, and her face had been slashed from the corners of her mouth to her ears, giving her a grotesque smile. The killer had also removed her internal organs and left them scattered around the crime scene. The brutality of the murder captured the attention of the nation, and the media quickly dubbed the case the Black Dahlia, a reference to Short's rumored love of black clothing in the film The Blue Dahlia, which was popular at the time. Despite an extensive investigation, the killer was never caught, and the case remains unsolved to this day. The investigation was plagued by false leads and confessions, with many suspects being cleared of the crime after lengthy interrogations. Over the years, many theories have been put forth about the identity of the killer. Some people believe that the killer was a doctor or a surgeon, due to the precision of the cuts on Short's body. Others believe that the killer was a serial killer who went on to commit other murders. The Black Dahlia murder has become a cultural phenomenon, inspiring countless books, movies, and TV shows. The story of Elizabeth Short has become a part of American folklore, with many people fascinated by the mysteries surrounding her death and the identity of her killer. Despite the passage of time, the case of the Black Dahlia murder remains unsolved, and the identity of the killer may never be known. The murder of Elizabeth Short is a tragic reminder of the dangers that can lurk in our communities and the importance of remaining vigilant and aware of our surroundings. The memory of Elizabeth Short lives on, and her tragic death serves as a reminder that justice must always be pursued, no matter how long it takes. The Exorcism of Roland Doe, also known as the Exorcism of Robbie Mannheim, is a true American horror story that took place in 1949. It is a story of a young boy who was allegedly possessed by a demon and the efforts of a Catholic priest to exorcise the demon from his body. Roland Doe, whose real name has never been revealed, was a 14-year-old boy from Maryland who began to exhibit strange and disturbing behavior in the late 1940s. His family initially believed that he was simply acting out, but as his behavior became more erratic and violent, they began to suspect that something more sinister was at work. After consulting with their Lutheran pastor, Roland's family turned to a Catholic priest named Father William S. Bowdern for help. Father Bowdern, along with a team of priests, began a series of exorcisms on Roland that lasted for several weeks. The exorcisms were brutal and intense, with Roland reportedly levitating, speaking in tongues, and exhibiting other signs of possession. During the exorcisms, The priests claimed that they were able to communicate with the demon possessing Roland, who identified itself as Legion. The exorcisms were eventually successful, and Roland's behavior returned to normal. The case of the exorcism of Roland Doe became famous throughout the country, inspiring the book and subsequent movie The Exorcist. The case of the exorcism of Roland Doe has been the subject of much controversy over the years. Skeptics claim that Roland's behavior was the result of a mental illness, and that the exorcisms were simply a form of religious hysteria. Others believe that the case was a genuine example of demonic possession, and that the priests were successful in driving the demon from Roland's body. Regardless of one's beliefs about the case, the exorcism of Roland Doe remains a chilling reminder of the power of belief in the forces that can lurk within the human psyche. The story has become a part of American folklore, inspiring countless works of fiction and contributing to the popular fascination with the supernatural and the occult. The Exorcism of Roland Doe is a true American horror story that continues to captivate and intrigue people to this day.